A lot of you have been watching me for an incredibly long time, which means you might have some assumptions about me that I've not revealed online. So today, we're gonna be going over what assumptions have you made about me via Instagram and my YouTube community page, so thank you very much for subscribing. So let's get into the assumptions. Also, by the way, next week, massive London video I've been working on, shot in many different locations, taking a long time to edit, but it's coming. I'm very excited for that, so stay tuned. But let's go on to the first assumption here. I wanna be able to like stand over here or over here, but I'm actually, I'm just a bit too tall. My assumption is that wanting to leave America, even just for short term, for something like studying abroad, is pretty unusual for Americans. The fact that you wanted to leave America at all was probably surprising to everyone who knew you at the time. I would disagree. I don't think it's very bizarre to study abroad from the States. I feel like that's the one time you're kind of expected to be able to do it because, I don't know, Uncle Sam was able to finance me with the US Fed loans. But no, I don't think it was surprising to anyone because I never really planned on moving abroad forever. It was just to study abroad. So no, I'd say that was actually a wrong assumption. I don't think anyone was surprised. They were just like, oh, that's cool. And then I never came back. I assume you've started to secretly like beans on toast despite being disgusted by it at first. Well, it's just so easy to make. If I'm really lazy, I want to have food, but I just don't want to cook. Just throw a piece of bread in the toaster, get some beans, and throw some cheese on it. It's very simple. I think the reason most Americans are probably disgusted by it at first is because we have such different beans. Beans in the US are usually with pork or bacon or maple syrup or brown sugar, you know, barbecue baked beans, which I do really like, especially to barbecue. That would absolutely not vibe as well as the completely bland British food known as the standard can of beans, which in America, you really don't get that type of beans unless you can't afford the good beans, but I actually do like it. I do like it, so yes, good assumption. You come across as smart in a lot of fields. I'd assume that when people first meet you, they find it intimidating to converse with you out of fear of looking stupid, though after a minute or two, they find you a sweetheart. I feel like in the past, I definitely was a lot more of someone who would like chime in and correct people, because that was just the type of person I was. But these days, I like having a lot of information, but I try and provide it in more of a fun way. So for instance, the other day, I'd literally just met someone, which was a friend of my girlfriend's, and we were having a walk back through Marlow Park, and essentially I was like, do you know what type of tree this is? I think it's some sort of maple. And she was like, no, it's definitely an oak. And the thing is, I know a lot about trees. I actually have a leaf-off badge from the States, but States trees are very different from UK trees, and so I was kind of asking to reaffirm, like, this is a sort of maple, right? But I knew one thing for sure. It was most definitely not an oak. And I wanted to be like, no, of all the plants you could have said, it's not an oak. But I was like, oh, are you sure it's an oak? I feel like oaks are definitely a bit more curvy. And she was like, no, it's an oak. So I just went, sure. Like, past me would have definitely been like, here's why you're wrong, let me Google it for you. But someone that I just met that is a friend of my girlfriend's, I have nothing to prove. I'm like, you know what? She can go on thinking that this is an oak when we all know that's not okay to think because it's wrong. And it was a type of maple, just not the maple I was expecting, which is kind of why I asked. Ex-Republican? I made an entire video about that actually, so that's not an assumption, that's true. Oh, you felt tempted to try stand-up, but feel it won't go well. Actually, yes. I actually have like a Notion page where anytime I come up with a funny story or joke, I'm like, I'll throw it in there for my one-day stand-up. I always liked the concept of me doing stand-up ever since I saw Donald Glover do stand-up at my college, and I loved his style of just telling funny stories. And I went, oh my God, I can do that. And then I have lots of little fun scenarios that I think are really funny. It's one of those things where I want to do everything, so obviously I'd love to go into stand-up, and I think that'd be really lovely. But there's only so many things I can choose to do, and so I can't actually do that. So I put my funniness into YouTube videos as much as I can. A lot of the stand-up material won't ever make it to YouTube because a lot of it's quite saucy. And there's a different atmosphere when you're doing stand-up where it's less cancelable in a way, and people go there to expect a bit of border pushing, and you can't really do that on YouTube anymore, you know? Wink, wink, sad, sad. I think sometimes you assume that everyone is as well educated as yourself. I would say that I speak to people as if I'm speaking to someone that is very similar to myself, in that I don't dumb things down or speak too high. I just speak the same to everybody, and I feel like that is my way of being more equal. Regardless of what your education level is, we can have an educated conversation, or maybe I can teach you something, maybe you can teach me something. Just, you know, normal conversation. One of my assumptions about you is that there are many things you dislike about the way England is run/ruled/led, yet despite that you've chosen to permanently live here, which is a bit of a contradiction. Ah yes, so you choose to participate in society? It's a very strange take, this one. I've gotten it quite a bit, especially on the video I did recently with my friend Luke, where we talked about how bizarre it is to pledge allegiance to the king. There were so many comments about this, which I view each and every one of them as just xenophobic at its core. Like, essentially you're saying, oh, you're an immigrant who's chosen to move here and become a citizen? Well, you do not have the right to have any opinions about it. No, you have to have been born in the country to have an opinion about the way the government's run, especially if your opinion disagrees with mine. Because that way I can invalidate any thoughts that you have as, oh, you're ungrateful. I find that such a weird take. Like, it is purely xenophobic, but people don't like to view it that way. They go, oh, you're not grateful that, you know, you moved to this country and you want to change things? Yes, shame on immigrants for wanting things to be better for everybody. What a shame, can't believe it. But you know, if my opinion as an immigrant was agreeing with the royals and, you know, being super up their butts like some people are, people would be like, oh, this immigrant's good, he's fine. We agree with him, so he can say what he wants. So bizarre. It's very transparent. You can have an opinion that's different from me, and I think that's totally fine. Don't just try and invalidate mine because of my upbringing. That's basically all I gotta say. Keep that in mind for not me, but everybody. I assume you get bored very easily. Actually, no, I don't get bored ever. I cannot remember the last time I was ever bored. I find that life always has something interesting to do or to keep my brain occupied. I can teach myself a skill. I can work on my photography. I can teach myself piano or play a video game or something. There's always something to do. I really don't find myself getting bored. I think the last time I was bored might have been when I was like 18 or 19. I feel like life is very exciting. There's always something to do. So no, I don't get bored easily. I don't get bored at all. I assume you don't watch anime. Well, I mean, I've watched Death Note like a couple times, and I've watched One Punch Man. And in my youth, I watched a couple ecchi pictures. So, I mean, there's that. You don't date people ever. As a subscriber, I don't mean that with maliciousness. This one's funny. I've had a girlfriend now for a year and a half, but that's the type of dating person I am. I don't date around. I pretty much try and find the right person for me. I know that's not popular these days, but that's just kind of the way that I've always worked. And so I don't plan on dating ever again, except take my current girlfriend on lovely dates. So you're wrong. Ha! Or actually, maybe you were right, because I didn't really date that many people. I was just very picky. So, Your room was mostly messy as a kid. My assumption was that it was always organized. Yeah, actually, the correct assumption was I was always very messy, but in a way, and I know this is talked about a lot, it was a controlled mess. I knew where everything was, and it just kept my mind in order to make sure I knew where things were, even if they were in a messy situation. I've always pretty much been that way, except when it comes to like my online life. I like to make sure my computer is incredibly well organized with lots of different folders so I know where everything is. My life in this flat, though, I have maintained an incredibly well organized and well clean machine, and that is because dang, otherwise I do just lose things a lot more regularly. I lose my keys, I lose my wallet. I assume you were someone who's in the talented and gifted program in school. I'm from the US too, and I was a tag kid in my small Missouri school. Actually, no, I wasn't in tag, I was in LEAP, which was just the New Jersey's gift and talent program. It was like learning enhancement education program, something like that. I really liked it, but the issue was, so if you're unaware of how it worked, I would be taken out of class maybe like 2 periods of the day during elementary school, but there were definitely like, there was 2 different months in which I was kicked out, not because my grades were suffering, but because I was just the type of kid that needed constant engagement, and if I wasn't really interested in what was being talked about, I would stop paying attention. At one point I got thrown out because I was biting my nails, which has been a habit I've had since I was literally 4. So I did find the LEAP program incredibly beneficial. It got me really interested early on into languages as we got to learn a bit more about Japanese and Japanese culture, and a lot of logic puzzles, which were really fun for me, and math puzzles. So for me, I really enjoyed the program, yes. All right, this one's a weird one. We have, you hate reading and would rather watch movies. Really? And that's like furthest from the truth. I don't understand people that even have this opinion. You hate reading? Do you mean like recreationally? Do you mean like the books that you were forced to read in school that maybe made you dislike reading because you didn't enjoy those? No matter who you are, there are types of books that you will enjoy. Maybe you hated the types of overdrawn out fictions that you had to read, and maybe you have a super hyper fascination in certain aspects that you'd love a biography or nonfiction book about. I don't know, I very much enjoy reading. It goes really well with this other assumption here, which is I want to read more, but haven't found a way to do that. No, I actually read a pretty good amount now. I use Audible, not sponsored, so that when I'm at the gym, I can listen to certain audiobooks. I also use my Kindle to read. I think in the last year, like 2023, I maybe have read like 8 books so far, different self-help books and productivity books, just because I enjoy that content. I've also listened to a couple autobiographies, so yeah. That way when I'm working out the gains, I can work out the brains. multitask. You are quite proficient at juggling and perhaps a couple of other circus tricks. This one is funny because I would also assume this about me because that's the type of skill I like to acquire just because I think it's interesting to be able to be like, oh, by the way, I can juggle for like 5 seconds. I'm gonna try. 2 apples and an onion, so this is not gonna go well. But no, actually, I can't. You know what, that was, you know what, I'm actually, I can slightly juggle. It's a good assumption because, like I said, I do really like learning obscure skills like that, just for fun. Did I teach myself to wiggle each ear separately? Absolutely. Why? Why not? Why not? I feel like you're going to quit YouTube anytime now. Been feeling that for a very long time. No, like I have ups and downs where I just get a bit sad about certain things, but YouTube is pretty much my bread and butter. It's what I really like doing. Even if I could make a full-time job of photography and stuff, I just really like making YouTube videos still. So that's why I'm still here. I don't plan on quitting, not anytime soon. I do just get stressed over the fact that things change so frequently, and essentially at this point in time, YouTubers are expected to be content machines. And I know that this video, for instance, will probably be one of my least well received because I'm not making content. I'm just making a chill personality-based video. But if I'm not making some intriguing title headline type video so that, you know, viewers get something really interesting, you know, I'm not gonna succeed and I won't be able to pay the bills. So that's my own fault. But I'm kicking it old school still. That's the way it is. Oh, I've got onion jizz on my hand. They assume I have bad insomnia. No, actually, I'm the exact opposite. I go to sleep like that most of the times. I close my eyes and I'm asleep. Maximum, maybe 10 minutes, but most of the time it's within 2. You prefer order and routine to spontaneity. No, I'm actually the way more spontaneous person in my relationship, for instance, where my girlfriend really enjoys the routine and the order, and I like just going, you know what, why don't we do something completely random? Like I'm in 8th grade again. You know, I enjoy injecting spontaneity into lots of different days so that things don't get boring. But I will say that keeping to certain routines really does help my mental health, so I try and balance between the two. You know how to program/code for computers. I'd say that's a pretty good assumption. I did have to learn C++ in college, so there's that, and you know, it's math, it's a language, so really up my alley, but not quite. Most of my HTML I learned from like Neopets, trying to make sure that my shop looked really nice, and the coding I do nowadays is pretty much Google coding in that, ooh, I need to figure out a way of making my website better. Like for instance, when someone adds one of my prints to their cart, it's hard to figure out, you know, where is the cart? There wasn't actually something there until someone emailed me earlier this week being like, hey, I don't know where that is. It was in the bottom corner, hard to see. So I went to Google, typed in how to solve this problem, and then found some people with good code knowledge. I manipulated a bit to make it more in the style of my website, and now bam, when you add something to the cart, there it is. So basically, I'm a normal person who knows how to use Google. I feel like Google proficiency, or at least search engine proficiency, is something that they should teach in school because it's so incredibly useful. You've had a crush on Dodie a long time ago. I literally never have. That was what was really strange about people always shipping us when we lived together, because it was like, no, it's just my best friend. Why would it? I feel like it's that thing where society constantly wants male and female people in the online sphere or within films or media at all to have romantic interests, and they refuse to believe that there can be really lovely relationships that aren't romantic relationships. You know, they exist, guys. You want to learn as many languages as you can. Actually, I thought this might be something I'd want to do as I finished up German and moved on to Spanish, but these days, I don't actually think that's what I'd like to do. I just want to know enough about a couple languages that I'm interested in so that I can converse and or just learn more about other people and their culture. It's been incredibly useful to know Spanish because my entire trip to Madeira, which is a Portuguese island, people that didn't know English, they knew Spanish because Portuguese and Spanish are really closely linked, so I could use my Spanish and actually get around there. And I also use Spanish in the Canary Islands really well, so just knowing that was really useful. Knowing German, that's just because I like German. I don't think it's as useful as Spanish, but it did let me watch Dark, so. You're gonna release a song one day. I need to message some other producer as the guy I messaged didn't reply, so I've really gotta work hard on that, but my brain. You'd like to learn how to sew, but have no time. Yeah, I was actually really close during lockdown to teaching myself how to sew, strictly because I wanted to tailor my own clothes so that I looked better in them, but didn't want to have to pay for every item of clothing to be tailored. So I was like, I'll teach myself. That'll be a good skill. Yes, but it also takes a lot of time and effort, a sewing machine. And I went, I just can't add one more thing. You don't enjoy a lazy day. You're always doing something productive. I feel like no matter what, there will be a way for me to view a day as productive. So even if it's towards the evening and I'm playing some video games or something, I'm being productive because I'm following that story a bit further. You know, I could trick my brain into being like, that's productive. But especially during the day, no, I really like to make sure I'm doing things that make me feel like I'm building myself up and or working towards something. So for instance, you would never catch me like gaming or watching a TV show or something like that in the middle of the day, because it would really just make me shake in a way of like, why am I doing this? There's so much I want to do that I'm just letting my life waste away. And so then I, get to work. Maybe set up my camera in my hallway to do something a little bit different. You don't like sport? No, sport's just really boring to me, no matter what the sport is. Also, I find it weird that for some reason British people have this weird hill when it comes to mathematics, and they go, it's maths, there's multiple maths, and so it's not math, it's maths, you barbarian. And then when it comes to sport, sports, guys, multiple sports, okay? You hypocrites! I'm gonna tweet about this. You don't like people putting drinks on the tables without a coaster. I respect wood. Do you not respect wood? And with all respect, would you subscribe to my channel? Thank you very much for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed my little thing here. Like I said, next week, big London video coming at you. So thank you very much, especially for all the support on my photographic prints. I'm hoping to start printing next week. They might be a bit late because overwhelmed, but they're coming. Thank you very much. I hope to see you guys next Sunday for a big special video. Goodbye.